She was seated near the kitchen, out of sight, watching her son's wedding through the swinging door, behind a tray of shrimp cocktail. She had paid for the entire event, every flower, every chair, but was never included when the music played and the toasts were given. She smiled, stayed silent, and after the last bite of cake was eaten, she made one phone call that quietly burned the whole thing down. There was no sign, no welcome, just a folding chair with a napkin tossed on the seat, shoved next to trays and a squeaky cart. The kitchen smelled of sour marinara and steam, and the heat from the ovens pressed into her back. Her soft mauve dress, carefully chosen and paired with hair she'd spent hours styling, felt wasted. No one had warned her about different seating. No one greeted her, not even her son Daniel, who was too busy adjusting his cufflinks and accepting kisses from his bride's mother, as if she had raised him, stayed up with his nightmares, or worked double shifts to afford his braces. She clutched the small leather handbag Daniel once gifted her on Mother's Day, her hands trembling. A young catering manager awkwardly informed her she had to stay in the back. Apparently, the bride didn't want visual clashes with her aesthetic, theme over family. She sat silently, ignoring the cold chicken on her plate, staring at her newly manicured nails, pretending everything was okay. But deep down, she wasn't okay. She pulled out the elegant program. Nowhere did it mention her. Her name wasn't spoken. Her presence wasn't acknowledged. She was invisible, just the one footing the bill. She watched her son dance with his new wife under glowing lights and told herself her tears were just from the onions in the kitchen. But something cracked inside. She focused on a peeling paint patch on the wall to keep herself together. Dessert came and went, untouched, and then she made the call. 3 short cancellations: florals, music, open bar. Her voice calm, her hand steady. She felt something stir in her for the first time in years. Power. She didn't sleep that night. She lay in the hotel bed, still in her dress, feeling the grease in her hair and the humiliation stuck to her skin. She saw the missed calls and a message asking what had happened. She opened the spreadsheet, every wedding expense accounted for, and saw unauthorized charges made days before the event. Her card, used without permission. A Venmo note mocking her generosity. His mom's covering everything. Might as well go big. Still, she didn't cry. She just felt empty. She looked in the mirror and hardly recognized herself. Then, she composed 3 polite but final emails, canceling every remaining service. By dawn, she was done being used, done being convenient. Let them scramble. Let them feel the silence when the music stopped and flowers didn't arrive. She remembered sitting in the kitchen with her plate of untouched hors d'oeuvres and a warm Diet Coke. Every toast, every laugh, every cheer drifted through that swinging door like a taunt. Through a crack, she could see them. Her son, his bride, the lavish decor she paid for. She heard the bride's mother praising Daniel like he was her own, and Daniel sat there between her and her husband, as if he belonged with them. No one acknowledged her, not her own sister, not her cousin. She was just a problem shuffled to the back. A college-aged server passed by and asked gently if she needed anything. She declined, aching everywhere, but trying to look composed. She thought back to how she asked Emily weeks ago about her seat, how Emily promised she'd be included. She knew she was being managed, used for her money, but never truly welcomed. She had agreed to every elevated detail, every upgrade, for her son's happiness. But now, all she felt was rage, quiet, precise, cutting rage. She stood up and peeked through the door again, locking eyes with Emily, who smiled, not with guilt, but with confidence. That was the moment she realized this wasn't an accident. It was intentional. They didn't want her there, and Daniel allowed it. That changed everything. She wasn't broken. She was repositioned. She wouldn't fight for space in their lives anymore. They thought she was invisible, but they had no idea what she could take away. And she did. The music faded, the bar closed, and the flowers never came. She was done pretending. Through the noise of clinking glasses and speeches, she stood by the kitchen, leaning against a cold wall. Her son's new in-laws made flowery speeches as though they'd raised him. Emily's father talked about fairy tales. Her mother called Daniel a second son, but not a single word was said about the woman who raised him alone, who gave everything. Then came Daniel's speech. He thanked everyone. He thanked Emily's family. He thanked those who made the day possible. But he didn't say her name. Not once. And yet, she had paid for everything. Even the dress Emily wore. She stood there holding his arm, like I wasn't even in the room. The servers clapped. The band picked up again. The dance floor began to fill. Someone handed me a slice of cake. Vanilla with raspberry filling. Her favorite. I've never liked raspberry. I stared at the flimsy plastic plate. The thin gold fork. My hand was steady now. I thought of the time Daniel turned 10 and asked for a chocolate cake with sprinkles. I worked 2 extra shifts just to buy the one he saw in that bakery window. His face lit up. He hugged me so tightly that day. But that boy, he was gone, replaced by a man who forgot to save me a seat. I set the cake aside and waited until the last bite of dessert was eaten, until ties were being loosened, frosting wiped from lips, the music reaching its peak. Then I slipped out of the kitchen, past the servers, past the bar, out the side door. The night air was calm, cool, that kind of quiet that rings in your ears. I pulled out my phone and made 3 quick calls to the florist, the band, and the bar manager. Polite, firm, no explanation. By the time I walked back into the hotel, everything was already in motion. The brunch was off, the music set canceled, extra bartender and custom cocktails gone. I had been quiet long enough. Let them have the rest. What little was left. Let them notice the absence. Let them wonder. I didn't care if they called me bitter, petty, dramatic. They had already written me out of the story. I simply turned the page. My hotel room still smelled faintly of rose lotion and something metallic, maybe from the stress or my own skin. I sat cross-legged on the untouched bed, the comforter still smooth. I hadn't cried, not once, but something inside me had changed. Not frozen. Frozen things crack. I had hardened, tempered. The sun hadn't risen yet. I reached for my purse and pulled out my phone. 6 missed calls, 2 voicemails, a dozen texts. Daniel, where are you? Why is brunch canceled? Mom? Seriously? Emily's confused. Are you okay? This is childish. I exhaled a quiet laugh. Childish. I opened my banking app. My hands knew the motions from years of Sunday checkbook balancing. The charges were there, clear, unauthorized. The bride, my new daughter-in-law, had used my card for a pre-wedding bar crawl and spa day. Champagne, brunch, manicures for 8. No one asked. No one told me. The trust I carried in my chest, like a warm, worn quilt, now felt shredded, like someone cut it up in my sleep. I checked my email. 2 new messages. One from the florist. No refunds with short notice, but they understood. The other from the band. Unusual, but message received. Deposit untouched. That was fine. I didn't do it for money. I did it for myself. for the invisible woman in the kitchen chair, for the mother erased from her own son's big day. My stomach growled. I hadn't eaten since yesterday, but the thought of food made me sick. Instead, I opened the curtains and watched the sunrise turn the sky orange, pink, then pale gold. It all felt surreal. Then I remembered a little red folder back home in the dresser, a folder full of old papers, legal stuff, letters I'd never thrown away. I felt drawn to it, like it had been whispering my name this whole time. I showered, washed off the perfume and the bitterness, dressed in jeans and a shirt that still smelled of lavender detergent. I checked out without saying a word. The drive home was quiet, just tires on pavement and a soft, static-filled radio. The kind of quiet where your thoughts speak loud. He didn't mention you. They saw where you sat. No one said a word. When I pulled into my driveway, the roses I'd planted 2 summers ago were blooming. I didn't stop to admire them. I went to the bedroom, opened the dresser, pulled out the red folder. At the bottom, under old insurance forms and forgotten photos, was a yellowed envelope, dated in my late husband's handwriting, postmarked from Arizona. I remembered finding it weeks after he passed. I couldn't open it then. It felt too cruel, like letting him speak from the grave. But now, I slid my finger under the flap. The paper was thin, the handwriting slanted and familiar. Margaret, I know you never wanted to hear from me again, but I have to tell you something. My heart thudded. My hands trembled. I've been carrying a secret. I can't take it with me. You deserve the truth. Daniel, he's not biologically yours. I found out years ago. Emily was already pregnant when we met. I thought I could pretend, but I never told you. We never told you. I stopped reading. The room spun, then settled. I kept reading anyway. Apologies, regrets. Too little, too late. Daniel, my Daniel, was never mine by blood. He had been left at my door like a test I didn't know I was taking. And I passed. Every night shift, every birthday, every pair of sneakers, passed with flying colors. And yet, I had been pushed aside, erased. But now I had something new. Clarity. Not grief, not heartbreak. Clarity. I didn't cry, not even with that letter shaking in my lap. Why would I? My tears had built Daniel's childhood, paid for asthma meds, school photos, his first car. I had no tears left. I walked into the kitchen and poured myself coffee. Black, strong, sat by the window and watched the neighbor's sprinkler tick across the lawn. It was a typical Sunday, but I was no longer the woman behind the punch bowl. I wasn't swallowing this, not anymore. I made more calls, florist, band, bar, polite, composed. I gave no reason, and I didn't need to. Then I turned my phone off, turned it back on 5 minutes later. 38 messages, 3 voicemails. Daniel again. Mom, where are you? What's going on? Emily's mother. This is unprofessional. Emily. Is this about the seating? Don't ruin this. That's petty. Petty. That word echoed. But all I could see was her, grinning across the room, knowing exactly what she'd done, and knowing I wouldn't do anything until now. I turned off my phone again. Let them spiral. Let them realize the bar ran dry because I had shut off the tap, that the music stopped because I was the one who paid the final note, that the flowers never came because the roots were rotten. I wiped the counters, fed the cat. I felt more peace than I had in months. Around noon, the doorbell rang. I didn't answer. Let them sit in their silence. That evening, I posted a single photo to Facebook. Not of me, not of the wedding. Just the check I wrote. Account number blurred. My signature clear. No caption. No explanation. Just truth. A receipt. Then I logged off. Not just Facebook, but guilt. Silence. pretending this wasn't betrayal. Let them spin their stories. I wasn't playing along. The quiet that followed said they were scrambling. No more texts, no more calls, just silence, the kind that hangs heavy. Even I didn't know what I'd do next. But whatever it was, it would be mine. Monday morning came, and I made coffee as usual, sitting by the window, no makeup, no jewelry, just me and the quiet hum of the fridge in the background. Daniel hadn't called since yesterday. His last voicemail was brief, cold. "You embarrassed us, Mom. Everyone's talking. What did you think you were proving? You crossed a line." I didn't flinch. Not anymore. The truth was clear now. You can give everything to someone. Your love, your time, your money, and still be disposable. You can build their whole world and still be told you're not part of it. Betrayal wasn't new. What surprised me was how little I cared. I deleted Daniel's contact. Not his number, but his name. Like it didn't belong there anymore. I didn't need to forget him, but I didn't want his name lighting up my screen either. Later, I ran errands. Grocery store, post office, small things. Life went on. In the bakery aisle, I saw Diane, my cousin who had come for the wedding. She smiled when she saw me, but there was hesitation in her eyes. "Margaret, are you okay?" she asked, stepping closer, lowering her voice. I met her eyes. "Are you okay?" I responded. She flushed. "I didn't realize that was on purpose. I thought maybe you—" I cut her off gently. "No, you didn't think. That's all." A long silence hung between us. Finally, she spoke. "I'm sorry. It was wrong. I should have said something." I nodded once. "Thank you." She seemed relieved, like that small acknowledgement made it right for her. But it didn't fix anything for me. It was a start, though. When I got home, there was a bouquet of carnations on my porch. Cheap ones, already wilting. No card. I didn't bring them inside. Instead, I tossed them in the trash. That night, I checked Facebook. The photo of the check had almost 100 comments. Friends, colleagues, even neighbors I hadn't heard from in years. Some were confused, others angry, but most understood. One comment caught my eye. "Margaret, I've never related to something so deeply. Thank you for showing us we don't have to stay quiet." That was it, the beginning of something new. Not revenge, not bitterness, just power reclaimed. Let them rage in their group chats. Let them spin their narrative. I wasn't replying, wasn't explaining. I was choosing silence. But it wasn't submission. It was control. The silence was mine now. It started with the old drawer in the guest room. A creaky thing that always needed a little push to open. I wasn't looking for anything in particular, just sorting through the remnants of a life I hadn't gotten around to clearing. But between yellowing tax returns and expired coupons, I found the red folder again. I thought I had emptied it, but tucked inside was another letter. No envelope this time, just a single folded page. It was handwritten, the same familiar slanted writing. My ex-husband's signature stared up at me. "Michael." The letter was dated 3 days before his death. "Margaret, if you're reading this, I guess the first letter reached you. I don't know if you opened it, but I hope you did. I'm not going to apologize again. I need to tell you something more. Something I couldn't carry with me. Something I should have said a long time ago. Daniel wasn't just someone else's son. He was never supposed to be yours. At all. When Emily left him at my door, she didn't want to keep him. She was 18, terrified, and asked me to give him up for adoption. I couldn't. I lied to you. I told you he was ours, that it was a mistake before we got married. You believed me. You raised him. You loved him like he was yours. But the truth is, He wasn't even that. He was a stranger's. I stopped reading, the room spinning again. But this time, I didn't want to look away. I let myself take in the truth, even as the weight of it threatened to crush me. Daniel, my son, wasn't really mine. He had been a stranger's child from the start. And somehow, I had loved him all the same. But now, with that final revelation, I saw everything clearly. It was as if my entire life had been a test I didn't know I was taking. But I had passed. Every scraped knee, every bedtime story, every sleepless night, every sacrifice. I had passed. Yet, here I was. Discarded, replaced, erased. I wasn't devastated. I wasn't heartbroken. I had simply stopped bleeding. I walked to the kitchen, poured myself another cup of coffee, and sat by the window again. The day was quiet. No calls, no explanations. I had taken back my silence, and I was finally free. The next morning, I went about my routine, as if everything was normal. I didn't feel any different, but I knew I was. I had stepped out of the shadows of their expectations, no longer living on borrowed time, only to be discarded the moment it didn't fit their story. The silence had become my ally, no longer a punishment, but a shield. I was in control now. I made my coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and opened my laptop. No more distractions. I didn't need to check my phone again for updates. I already knew the mess they were trying to clean up without me. My absence spoke louder than anything I could have said. Every missed call, every voicemail, they all reflected the same thing. They were scrambling. They had underestimated me. The first message came through from Daniel. "Mom, seriously? What the hell is going on? Why would you cancel everything? This is ridiculous." I didn't bother opening the others. He didn't even know what he was angry about. His words felt like they belonged to someone else. Someone who didn't know me, didn't understand the weight of everything I'd given. The next message was from Emily's mother, her voice dripping with frustration. "I don't know what you're trying to prove, but you've ruined everything. People are asking questions." And then, Emily herself, her tone sharp, cutting. "This is petty, Margaret. You're acting childish. Is this about the seating? Seriously?" Childish. The word stung, but not in the way she intended. It echoed, rattling around my mind. Petty? I had spent years being the quiet one, the invisible one, playing the part of a dutiful mother, wife, and then mother-in-law. Yet here I was, finally standing up, and she couldn't understand it. None of them could. It wasn't petty. It was survival. It was reclaiming myself. It was the truth. I set the phone aside and walked to the living room, glancing out the window. The sun had barely risen, casting long shadows across the yard. It was peaceful here, away from their noise, but it wouldn't last. Not for long. I knew that. I felt the weight of it, of what was coming, the reckoning, the fallout from their lies and my silence. They wouldn't be able to avoid it forever, and I wouldn't save them from it anymore. The day passed slowly, like the last stretch of a long, tiring journey. I kept to myself, moving through the house, getting small things done, washing dishes, folding laundry, the mundane tasks that had always filled my days. But now, it was different. I was present in a way I hadn't been in years, not for them, but for myself. No more pretending to be okay with the way things were. No more accepting the scraps they offered. I had earned the right to take up space. By afternoon, the doorbell rang again. I ignored it, just as I had the last time. Let them knock. Let them wonder. They weren't here for me. They were here to clean up their mess. And I was done being the one who always picked up the pieces. I wasn't going to chase them down. Not anymore. As evening fell, I sat down with a glass of wine, watching the sky turn dark outside. The quiet was suffocating, yet freeing. The phone had been silent for hours now. No more messages, no more calls. They were waiting, just like I had waited for years, for something to change, for them to see me. But now, they were left in the dark. They were left with the consequences of their own actions. And it was beautiful in a way. Later that night, I did something I hadn't expected. I posted a simple picture on Facebook, a photo of the check I had written, with the account number blurred out, but the signature clearly visible. No caption, no explanation, just that, a record of what I had done. Let them rage, let them question, let them twist it however they wanted. I wasn't explaining myself anymore. This was my truth, and I was the one who controlled the narrative now. The silence that followed felt like a storm passing overhead. It stretched out, long and thick, as if they were all holding their breath, waiting for me to react. But I didn't. I didn't flinch. I didn't flail. I just sat in it, feeling the weight of it all settle around me, like the calm after a chaotic storm. And then, in the following days, I saw the cracks in their facade. The texts, the frantic calls, the quiet whispering in the background. They knew they had crossed a line, and now they were facing the consequences, and all I could do was sit back and watch. What surprised me was how little it affected me. They had played their game, and I had walked away from it. I didn't need to chase their approval anymore. I didn't need to beg for a seat at their table. I was done playing the part. And in the end, that silence, it wasn't empty. It was full of something far stronger than their lies. My peace. My peace was the loudest thing in the room. The next few days end with a strange sort of calm. My routine was the same, but I felt like I was moving through life with a new clarity, almost as if I had stepped out of the fog I'd been living in for years. The messages kept coming, but they no longer held power over me. I had made my choice, and I was no longer swayed by their demands or their guilt trips. Daniel called again. This time, his voice was sharp, defensive. "Mom, you really embarrassed us. You caused a scene. Do you realize what you've done? This is ridiculous." I didn't respond. There was nothing to say anymore. The words he had for me, they didn't matter. He wasn't the person I had raised. He was someone else entirely, and that someone else had no place in my life anymore. I deleted his contact from my phone. Not to forget him. No, I would never forget him, but because I didn't need the constant reminder of what I had lost. The absence of his name on my screen felt like a release, a small, quiet victory. Life went on. I went grocery shopping, ran errands, kept busy. It was almost like before, only this time I wasn't pretending. I wasn't fighting to be seen. And then, in the most unexpected of places, I ran into Diane at the store, my cousin. She looked at me with a mix of concern and hesitation, as if she wasn't sure how to approach me after everything that had happened. "Margaret," she said, her voice soft. I met her gaze. "Are you okay?" she asked, stepping a little closer. I looked at her, seeing the genuine concern in her eyes, and I took a deep breath. It had been a long time since anyone had asked me that, really asked me. For a moment, I didn't know how to answer, but then I nodded. "I am," I said simply. "I'm okay." She flushed, looking relieved. "I didn't realize. I should have said something before." "Thank you," I said, my voice steady. "But it's done now. It's all done." I didn't need anything more from her. Her words weren't going to change anything, but it was a start, a small acknowledgement, and for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like I was carrying the weight of the world alone. I wasn't invisible anymore. When I got home, there was a bouquet of wilting carnations on my porch. No card, No explanation. I walked right past them, picking them up and tossing them straight into the trash. I didn't need their half-hearted attempts at reconciliation. The flowers didn't matter. It was the gesture, empty and late, that I was done with. That evening, I checked Facebook. The photo of the check had gone viral. There were hundreds of comments now. Friends, old acquaintances, strangers, people who saw the truth in what I'd done, who understood that I was no longer going to play the part they expected me to. One comment stuck with me. "This broke my heart. Margaret, I've never related to something so deeply. Thank you for showing us we don't have to stay quiet." That comment, more than any other, shifted something inside me. It wasn't about the wedding or the fallout. It was about the realization that I wasn't alone in this. There were others, quiet, unnoticed like I had been, who had been waiting for someone to stand up and show them it was okay to stop pretending. I wasn't just a mother or a wife anymore. I wasn't just the invisible woman behind the scenes. I was Margaret, whole, undivided, and finally free to be myself, without apology. As the days went by, the silence continued. The calls stopped coming, the messages slowed. They were waiting for me to cave, to come crawling back with an apology, to explain myself, to make it all better. But I didn't, and I wouldn't. I had given enough. I had loved enough. I had sacrificed enough. And now, I was choosing me. On a Saturday afternoon, I found myself sitting by the window again, sipping my coffee. The house was quiet, but it wasn't oppressive. It was peaceful. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was in the right place. The phone remained untouched. The world outside continued to turn, but in this moment, I was exactly where I needed to be. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't heartbroken. I wasn't even sad. What I felt was something new, something that had been buried deep for years, hidden beneath layers of expectation, obligation, and love that wasn't always returned in kind. I felt free, and in that freedom, I knew this. There was nothing more to say. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this story and want more thought-provoking content, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Your feedback really helps me improve and connect with you all, so feel free to leave a comment or share your thoughts. I'd love to hear what you think and keep the conversation going. Until next time, take care, and remember, the silence isn't always a sign of defeat. It can be the start of something new.